Have you ever woken in the deep silence of dawn and wondered if that gentle voice echoing in your heart was, after all, Mary speaking to you? Imagine yourself lying there, enveloped in darkness, when a barely audible whisper breaks the silence. Come, daughter, open your heart. It is in that moment that the mystery of the voices in the dawn reveals itself. And, if you've ever experienced this, you know how impossible it can be to ignore. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you and transform the way you pray. In the dim light of the room, every sound seems amplified. The soft creaking of the bed, the beating of your own heart, even the distant rustling of the wind in the trees. It is in this setting of introspection that the apparitions of Medjugorje gained fame, with unrevealed messages from Mary reaching those who dare to seek solace in deep prayer. You feel the weight of the day's worries, the anguish that insists on lingering, but in that moment, there is a different presence, a maternal presence, gentle and firm at the same time. Have you ever found yourself longing for divine counsel to guide your choices? Prayer in the early morning offers this intimate encounter. When the outside world quiets and Mary's voice can be heard more clearly, it's not a vague sensation. Many devotees report noticing physical changes, a sudden chill, a sense of peace invading the body, the shiver that heralds something greater. It is at this point that the mystery intensifies, leading us to question the very meaning of faith and the urgency of heeding this heavenly call. Throughout this video, we'll explore the 7 unrevealed messages Mary reportedly shared in Medjugorje. But before delving into each of them, it's important to understand how to prepare to hear this spiritual counsel. Silent meditation, reading scripture, and keeping a prayer journal can be powerful tools for discerning the Virgin's voice. Have you ever tried recording your prayer experiences? If not, perhaps now is the perfect time to start. What if I told you that? Throughout history, saints and mystics have recognized dawn as a sacred time for divine manifestations. The tranquil atmosphere, the anticipation of dawn, and an awakened heart create the perfect setting for profound spiritual encounters. It's not just a matter of technique, it involves an inner posture of humility, surrender, and active listening. Are you prepared for this disposition? Or rather, what you're about to discover now may instigate a new dimension in your relationship with prayer. When we speak of Medjugorje, many think only of the visible apparitions, but there is a universe of subtle communications that have not reached the general public. These are the hidden messages that nourish hope and strengthen the faith of those who receive them in prayer. They are practical and prophetic counsel, calls to conversion, forgiveness, and spiritual vigilance. And now, I invite you to pay attention to the details. That gentle breath we mentioned at the beginning can recur in your quietest moments, bringing guidance for important decisions. Stay with me, because in the next step we will reveal the first of these 7 unrevealed messages, exploring its meaning and how to put it into practice in your daily life. You will feel the gravity of this call and understand why so many hearts turn to Medjugorje for guidance. Prepare for a journey of discovery and transformation, for the voice that echoes in the dawn may indeed be Mary's loving counsel, ready to illuminate your path. And it is precisely in this silent surrender that we begin to feel the pulse of a greater Kalinga, gentle urgency that invites us not to remain in doubt. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. Was it the thought of hearing Mary in the early hours of the morning? The feeling of peace that envelops the heart? Share your experience, as each story strengthens our community of searching and faith. And if you are feeling this energy of discovery, like this video so that more people can find this channel and be inspired to pay attention to the subtle voices of prayer. Your participation here is what makes this space grow and reach more hearts thirsty for prophetic messages and divine counsel. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't miss any of the upcoming secrets of Medjugorje that we will reveal. Now, take a deep breath and prepare yourself. The first unrevealed message is about to illuminate your path, and we will continue this profound dialogue next. Since 1981, the tranquil hills of Medjugorje, a modest village in Bosnia and Herzegovina, have become the scene of a phenomenon that defies conventional explanation. On that June night, a group of young shepherds claimed to have seen a luminous figure, identified as the Virgin Mary, sitting on a rock near the village. At first, these were suspicious whispers, stories exchanged in secret among friends. But soon the reports spread, and what began as a private apparition became a public invitation to conversion and deep prayer. The transformation in the mindset of the local inhabitants, accustomed to a daily life of agrarian simplicity, was immediate. The village began to welcome pilgrims seeking inner peace, spiritual solace, and, above all, answers to their most agonizing decisions. The impact was overwhelming. Those who arrived without much expectation ultimately found something more than a bucolic landscape and a historic church. They felt, in the silence between prayers and songs, a maternal and welcoming force that seemed to come from beyond the material. Each visitor's journey became a behind-the-scenes experience, where the true spectacle was not Mary's physical presence, but the inner cry of each heart thirsting for a hidden truth. Numerous testimonies documented emotional healing, restored relationships, and professional decisions made with renewed conviction, as if that mystical breath had redefined life priorities. But despite all this activity, many messages remained in the visionaries' archives. Without gaining the spotlight of official religious media, the Catholic Church, cautious in the face of supernatural phenomena, asked for time for investigation and discernment, maintaining a strategic silence that only heightened the curiosity of the faithful. While the lack of immediate recognition may have generated doubts, it also reinforced the aura of mystery surrounding Medjugorje, fueling debates in study groups, spiritual retreats, and community gatherings around the world. Thus, the importance of these apparitions transcended the borders of Bosnia, becoming a landmark in the modern history of Marian manifestations. On this context, devotees learned to value attentive listening and the detailed recording of dreams and sensations received during nighttime prayer. With a pen and notebook always at hand, they began to record not only exact words, but also emotions, colors, smells, and even synesthesia, the sensation of light touching the skin or sound enveloping the body. This practice of prophetic journaling opens space for personal revelations, demonstrating that each person can embark on a unique journey of encounter with the divine, even if the primary messages remain under ecclesiastical scrutiny. Furthermore, the Medjugorje phenomenon fostered a new mindset regarding the role of the faithful in the communion of saints. No longer passive spectators of supernatural events, pilgrims became protagonists of their own faith stories, adopting a posture of spiritual vigilance and constant discernment. This collective awakening revealed that, often, the true miracle lies not in the visible apparition, but in the ability to internalize silent counsel and make decisions aligned with a transcendent purpose. The relevance of these early apparitions, therefore, remains vivid, even without formal approval. The emotional bond established between Mary and her children, scattered throughout the world, has a profound impact on how we understand prayer, prophecy, and revelation. It is as if each visitor, upon returning to their hometown, takes with them not only memories of a sacred place, but a new sensitivity to listening to subtle voices in the night, voices that speak of forgiveness, healing, unity, and vigilance. Medjugorje thus became a spiritual laboratory, where time slows down and the heart opens to possibilities of transformation. Behind the scenes of this experience are intimate stories, small study group meetings, silent retreats, and outdoor celebrations, all reinforcing the idea that, behind popular devotion, there is a constant invitation to conversion and commitment to a truth that transcends words. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment here. I'm on this journey to. Many wonder why so many institutional voices prefer not to comment on these messages echoing in Medjugorje. The answer lies in the complex web of discernment and responsibility that surrounds the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. When mystical phenomena arise, theologians and bishops face a delicate decision. Promptly recognizing a supernatural manifestation has an immediate impact on the faith of millions. But it also requires rigorous investigation to avoid mistakes that could undermine the institution's credibility. This cautious stance is not a lack of faith, but rather a way of protecting the hidden truth of the apparitions, avoiding hasty conclusions, and allowing each revelation to be evaluated in its aftermath, in light of historical documents, testimonies, and theological criteria. Imagine the silent work of internal committees, where experts in spirituality, psychology, and theology analyze each account, every sensory detail described by the visionaries. It is in this background, away from the spotlight, that the true revelations about the authenticity of the messages occur. Some believe that maintaining this strategic silence contributes to a deeper transformation in the mindset of the faithful, without official labels. Each person's journey becomes personal, guided by their own search for signs and the daily practice of prayer. Behind the decision not to immediately make the apparitions official lies a concern about the potential repercussions of premature recognition. Scandals, fraud, and misinterpretations could divert the community from its original purpose, which is to deepen its intimate connection with Mary and strengthen faith decisions. Renowned theologians often reiterate that prudence is an essential virtue in spiritual matters. They warn against reducing complex phenomena to mere psychological phenomena or, conversely, transforming them into media spectacles that undermine transcendence. Therefore, instead of immediate official statements, study documents, preliminary reports, and requests for patience are released, inviting each believer to observe the unfolding of events with a critical eye and an open heart. This dynamic creates an atmosphere of mystery, in which the hidden truth slowly emerges as more accounts are cross-referenced and more lives witness the transformative power that emerges when a person decides to embrace this spiritual counsel. It's interesting to note that, while institutional silence prevails, in faith communities around the world, the impact is felt directly and viscerally. Prayer groups are multiplying in homes, chapels, and even online gatherings. where each participant shares their impressions, feelings, and even life decisions made after experiences of prayer in the early hours of the morning. This spontaneous movement of sharing ends up operating as a laboratory of faith, where the prophetic power of messages is tested in the heat of everyday decisions, career choices influenced by a dream, family reconciliations driven by intuition during the night, vigil, changes in habits and priorities defined by the feeling of divine counsel. It is at this point that institutional silence and popular fervor meet, creating a tension that sparks curiosity about the true meaning of these apparitions. Furthermore, there is an aspect of pastoral protection in these decisions of official discretion. The Church, in its wisdom, seeks to prevent vulnerable believers from being exploited by unscrupulous individuals who promise direct contact with the divine in exchange for financial contributions or personal favors. This care for souls is part of a strategy of zeal, which aims to preserve the dignity of each seeker and maintain the integrity of the discernment process. When, instead of a broad statement, only technical reports and general guidelines are released, a barrier is created against potential abuse, ensuring that the focus remains on sincere listening to subtle voices, not on spectacular displays of faith. But it is in this context that each person's journey takes on a unique freshness, without relying exclusively on official pronouncements. Devotees learn to calibrate their own spiritual compass. They develop a mindset of vigilance and humility, understanding that not all that glitters is gold, while also recognizing that the divine can manifest itself discreetly, almost imperceptibly. This learning of self-discovery and self-trust surprisingly strengthens the global community of pilgrims, which becomes a fabric of interconnected experiences, sustained by journaling, small group conversations, and the exchange of insights into the nuances of unrevealed messages. The hidden truth, therefore, is not found on the shelves of decrees or official acts, but rather in the transformed lives of those who choose to remain attentive. And, curiously, this scenario of silence creates space for each person to become the protagonist of their own revelation, drawing from the mystery a force capable of moving inner mountains. Previously postponed decisions gain clarity, forgotten projects resurface with renewed energy, and the spiritual impact reverberates in concrete acts of love, forgiveness, and service to others. Thus, authorities and theologians, by maintaining discretion, end up contributing to a more mature aging of faith, marked by testimonies of genuine conversion and not just superficial adherence. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. In the dead of night, when everything around you seems asleep and even your own heart beats more softly, voices emerge, a phenomenon that transcends rational explanations and touches your soul directly. Imagine yourself on your knees, in absolute silence, searching for answers to your deepest questions. Suddenly, a shiver runs down your spine as if a cold breeze invaded the room. And then, right on the border between sleep and wakefulness, you perceive an indistinct whisper, almost like a distant echo of an ancient song. It is in this moment that reality seems to bend, offering a window to something beyond the visible, provoking an internal transformation that reverberates in every daily decision. Reports of these voices always arise in similar circumstances. During contemplative prayer, especially after repeating prayers such as the Rosary or the Hail, Holy Queen, when the mind reaches a state of mindfulness and the body relaxes to the point of feeling part of a greater whole. Some devotees describe feeling a gentle warmth enveloping their chest, as if their heart were caressed by the hand of a loving presence, while others mention a slight tingling in the lips or ears, signaling that something extraordinary is about to happen. There are those who wake up in the middle of the night, often between 2 and 3 a.m. known in many monasteries as the hour of darkness or hour of compassion, and even before realizing what has happened, are already jotting down short phrases. In a notebook: trust, daughter, prayer transforms. Stand firm in the hidden truth. Important decisions will emerge from this moment of silence. In one such account, a pilgrim recounts that, while praying during a retreat in Medjugorje, she felt the space around her expand. Despite being in a simple dining room, she heard clear, gentle, and measured words. Today is the day of your liberation. The impact of this revelation was so profound that at the end of the vigil, she realized she had radically shifted her priorities. She broke a cycle of toxic relationships, adopted new prayer habits, and began dedicating part of her time to counseling others seeking transformation. This story, told behind the scenes of a spiritual encounter, has become an inspiration to many, highlighting how Mary's voice and profound prayer can alter the course of a personal journey. Another believer described a different experience. Sitting before a small image of the Virgin, he felt a sense of lightness and weightlessness, as if his own body were suspended. At that moment, he clearly heard a phrase that to many would sound metaphorical, but which for him became a practical mantra: your decisions will shape the future of many. This reality directly impacted his mindset as a community leader, encouraging him to promote solidarity actions and Bible study meetings in the local parish. From then on, his ministry gained new energy, the fruit of a silent revelation that could only occur in the stillness of the early morning. Physiologically, these phenomena appear to be linked to an altered state of consciousness. The combination of silence, darkness, and intense prayer can bring the brain to a threshold similar to theta waves, associated with creativity and heightened intuition. In this state, the boundaries between the internal and external become blurred, allowing the mind to capture subtle nuances of sounds and sensations coming from a spiritual plane. It's as if the veil separating the human from the divine becomes translucent for a few seconds, allowing messages to pass through in the form of words, images, or even soft melodies that remain echoing in the memory, even after the devotee has fully awakened. The most common times for these revelations are during spiritual retreats, prayer vigils, or even moments of personal trial, when the mind seeks relief from the weight of anguish. Parents facing dilemmas about their children's future, professionals needing to make career decisions, or people going through health crises often report these voices as anchors of hope. In many cases, the comfort comes not only from the words heard, but from the emotional impact they evoke, a silent certainty that they are not alone, and that even in the darkest hours, there is maternal counsel ready to light the way. Revelations, however intense, are not limited to direct speech. Some describe vivid dreams, where symbolic scenes, such as a field of flowers under a starry sky, or a light descending from a distant cloud, bring the same message that, in conscious prayer, would manifest in words. These prophetic dreams function as extensions of the phenomenon of voices in the early morning, reinforcing the sense of a journey guided by a loving presence that communicates in various ways to reach different sensibilities. Even those who have never set foot in Medjugorje can experience something similar. The phenomenon transcends geographical boundaries and settles deep within each seeker. The practice of setting aside time for nighttime prayer, even if only 5 minutes, creates the ideal conditions for transformation to occur. The impact of this experience is evident in the way people begin to face their challenges with renewed confidence, a mindset of gratitude, and decisions aligned with a higher purpose. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. From those first nighttime whispers in which we felt Mary's maternal presence, inviting us to listen, one of Medjugorje's most powerful and urgent messages emerges: the invitation to conversion. It's not just a temporary change in behavior, but a radical transformation of mindset, a redefinition of the decisions that shape our existence. Imagine yourself standing before an inner mirror, and in that instant, Mary's gentle voice says, "Repent and renew your heart." It's as if all the hidden truths within you are brought to the surface, revealing old wounds, emotional imbalances, and even choices that urgently need to be rethought. This call to conversion is not a simple moralistic plea. It is an invitation to the broader scope of the spiritual journey, where each step has a direct impact on personal and collective life. Behind the scenes of these apparitions, the visionaries wrote down words that sound almost poetic but carry transcendental weight. Give yourselves completely, for faith without works is like a seed without soil. Upon hearing this, many felt compelled to confront habits, abandon patterns that kept them trapped in fear and resentment, and adopt a posture of unconditional generosity. It is in this turning point that true conversion occurs, when we understand that our choices not only reverberate within ourselves, but also echo throughout the community, inspiring others to reevaluate their own trajectories. Moving accounts tell how, after heeding this hidden counsel, pilgrims returned home with a new clarity. Marriages in crisis were renewed. Professional decisions that seemed unattainable were made with confidence, and frayed friendships found the balm of forgiveness. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, but the initial impact is immediate. A profound relief is experienced, as if the accumulated weight of guilt and insecurities were lifted from one's shoulders. This change in mindset is visible in the expressions, posture, and restored serenity of those who have undergone this experience. Within this context, a decisive question emerges: what prevents us from embracing this conversion today? Medjugorje shows us that the greatest obstacle is often our own internal resistance, the insistence on maintaining certain comfort zones even when they harm us. Mary's message reminds us that empty comforts, however attractive they may seem, are traps that slow the soul's evolution. When she whispers, "Leave behind what prevents you from following the path of light," we are faced with an invitation to revisit past decisions, release resentments, and invest in a new attitude of surrender and service. The spiritual urgency of this invitation is revealed in accounts of intense dreams, where symbols of purifications such as crystal clear waters or gentle flames indicate the need for an inner baptism. These dreamlike revelations, often recounted in prophetic diaries, serve as reinforcement for those who still feel hesitant in their nightly vigil. It is as if creation itself conspired to awaken our consciousness, using profound images and sensations. to remind us that yesterday's conventions are not enough to sustain tomorrow's soul. By accepting this call, a true journey of inner inquiry begins. Each prayer becomes an opportunity for sincere dialogue. Each reading of Scripture reveals nuances previously unnoticed, and each practical decision from forgiving someone who has hurt us to dedicating time to others is made with the strength born of conviction, and it is precisely at this point that we perceive the healing power of this invitation. In the practice of small daily virtues that, together, bring about a continuous and lasting transformation, it's curious to note how, even without immediate official approval, this message of conversion has been the axis of entire communities that have formed around Medjugorje. Prayer groups that have emerged behind the scenes, often organized spontaneously, have held weekly meetings to share testimonies of how this conversion has impacted their professional and personal lives. These circles of trust function as laboratories for spiritual practice, where each revelation is tested in the chaos of everyday life. A silent advice to act with more compassion, a sudden intuition to stop and help a stranger, an inner certainty that we should take a new path as we explore this hidden message. We are invited to recognize that conversion is, above all, a conscious choice. It is not enough to feel the whisper or experience a momentary change. It is necessary to keep the inner flame burning, renewing the willingness to follow a path of integrity and love. This permanent decision forms the basis of a faith that does not exhaust itself on special occasions, but rather sustains every small gesture, every word of comfort, and every act of justice. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject. As we reflect on this invitation, we realize that it is not a point of arrival, but a starting point for a hidden truth that promises to unfold in even more transformative revelations, guiding us along a path of authentic faith aligned with a purpose that goes beyond our immediate plans. Comment here. I'm on this journey to now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. After accepting the call to conversion, a second powerful revelation emerges. Almost like a gentle breeze touching the wounds of the soul, the invitation to inner healing and forgiveness. Mary, in her unrevealed messages, would have implored us to seek within ourselves the restoration that only true love can offer. This is not a quick or superficial process, but a journey of self-discovery where every emotional scar is illuminated by the light of divine compassion. By pronouncing, "Forgive yourselves and others," she opened space for the most painful decisions to find a turning point, transforming resentment into liberation and resentment into an opportunity for a new beginning. Imagine someone carrying, for years, the weight of past mistakes, a betrayal suffered, a thoughtless word spoken in a moment of pain, a project abandoned out of doubt. This person, upon encountering the hidden message of Medjugorje, felt the profound impact of a short but revealing phrase, "Allow my embrace to heal your wounds." This is how a devotee described, in a behind-the-scenes report from a retreat, the moment when unexpected tears welled up as she mentally repeated that phrase during dawn prayer. The impact was immediate, a relief that came neither from psychological diagnosis nor conventional therapies, but from a renewed confidence in the spiritual transformation that operates slowly but steadily. In practice, this inner healing manifests itself in many ways. For some, it means revisiting painful memories with a fresh perspective, learning to learn lessons instead of harboring resentment. For others, it involves writing letters of forgiveness not necessarily sent, but composed with sincerity, like a ritual that seals the decision to leave behind what hinders the soul's growth. There are also those who report prophetic dreams in which they see symbols of purification, waters washing the body or outstretched hands offering a light that penetrates every dark corner of the heart. These dreamlike revelations reinforce the understanding that the healing journey is both internal and supernatural, combining prayer and meditation practices with sensory sensations that validate the experience. Amidst this process, the old mentality of inevitable suffering gives way to a transformative conviction that pain doesn't have to be eternal, but can be converted into strength for future decisions. Several reports indicate that, by embracing Mary's invitation, people decided to change professions to pursue a calling they previously thought impossible. Others restored relationships previously condemned to silence, rediscovering the value of dialogue and empathy. Each concrete change is a living testament to the power of advice given in the quietest hours, showing that the impact of these messages goes far beyond an esoteric experience, reaching out to tangibly touch everyday life. Behind the scenes of spiritual encounters, inner healing also took on a communal dimension. Small sharing groups emerged as laboratories of empathy, where each participant confided their emotional wounds and prayed together for deliverance. These informal gatherings, held in parish halls or even via video conference, consolidated a support network that reinforced a sense of belonging and purpose. It is in this environment of solidarity that the hidden truth of the apparitions is collectively revealed, the belief that no one is alone in their battles, and that forgiveness is a gift that multiplies when experienced in community. Maria's persuasive approach left no doubt about the urgency of this healing. In confidential reports, One of the visionaries reportedly noted a blunt message: "Do not allow the shadows of the past to darken the light of tomorrow." Upon reading these words during a vigil, many felt as if they had received an inner map, guiding them through every decision that needed to be revisited, from health issues to socially impactful projects. The journey, therefore, is not just internal. It resonates with how each of us influences the world around us, sparking volunteer initiatives, actions to promote justice, and acts of spontaneous kindness. Physiologically, the sensations of emotional healing and forgiveness are accompanied by a release of tension in the body. Many report feeling a weight lift from their shoulders and a deep calm invading their mind. Scientists studying the relationship between spirituality and well-being suggest that practices of gratitude and forgiveness can reduce stress levels and improve cardiovascular health. But what sets Medjugorje apart lies in the intensity of the revelations, which occur in a state of expanded consciousness. It's as if the mere act of opening one's heart in prayer triggers a biochemical process of renewal, enhanced by a spiritual component that transcends traditional scientific explanations. As we delve deeper into this message, we realize how it connects with universal themes of redemption and compassion. No matter where we are in life, inner healing is an invitation to reframe experiences, an opportunity to transform mistakes into catalysts for growth. And, in this context, forgiveness is not a favor we offer only to others, but an act of personal liberation that redefines our own trajectory. Each decision to forgive is equivalent to a firm step toward a mindset of emotional abundance, replacing the scarcity of resentment with the generosity of restorative love. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic. Realize that this journey of healing and forgiveness connects directly with the following message, further expanding the scope of transformation that Mary proposes to us. Comment: "This makes sense to me." Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. When life confronts us with unexpected storms, illness, loss, financial crises, or conflicts that seem greater than our capacity to cope, a third, unrevealed message from Medjugorje emerges. As essential as it is urgent, the promise of divine protection in times of tribulation. It is not a magical shield that wards off all suffering, but a support that strengthens the mind and renews the courage to make decisions even when the ground seems to crumble beneath our feet. It is in this scenario of vulnerability that Mary's gentle voice would have whispered to the visionaries, "Trust in me, for in the darkness I am the light that never fails." These words, recorded behind the scenes at retreats and spiritual gatherings, reveal a hidden truth. The journey of faith does not eliminate difficulties, but transforms the experience of pain into a process of growth. In one of the most moving accounts, a couple faced the collapse of their family business after an unexpected disaster. Desperate, they gathered for a night vigil at home, holding each other's hands while mentally repeating the prayer they learned in Medjugorje. It was at that moment that they felt a gentle warmth enveloping the room, as if the air laden with fear had been replaced by a welcoming breeze. A phrase echoed in their hearts, clear and firm: "Fear not, I am with you." From that moment on, a serenity emerged, allowing them to see solutions that previously seemed invisible. New partners were found, contracts renegotiated, and, above all, a deep trust was established in their souls. The transformation was not immediate in practical terms, but the emotional impact was so great that the courage to act was reborn, leading them to make strategic decisions that not only saved the business but also strengthened the bond between them. This experience reflects a pattern found in many testimonies. The protection offered does not prevent the initial shock of the crisis, but grants the resilience needed to overcome it. Many describe physiological sensations of sudden muscular relaxation, as if shoulders finally yielding to the weight of affliction, find rest, and breathing, previously shallow and rapid, becomes deep and measured. Neuroscience research suggests that prayer and active meditation practices can trigger the release of neurotransmitters linked to well-being. But the uniqueness of this phenomenon in Medjugorje lies in the transcendent element, which acts as a catalyst for the faithful to perceive previously hidden inner resources, a renewed willpower, an unusual mental clarity, and a determination to move forward. The impact on local communities was so profound that even without immediate official recognition, support groups emerged, meeting in homes, churches, and online spaces to share stories of protection received. These behind-the-scenes gatherings, which began as small sharing circles, have transformed into networks of solidarity, where each story of divine support inspires others to trust more, pray more intensely, and create practical action plans based on the advice received in prayer. The collective feeling that we are not alone strengthens a sense of purpose and encourages initiatives of mutual care, proving that the promise of support is not just an isolated message, but a driver of social transformation. But in the midst of tribulation, many wonder how to discern whether that courageous impulse is a genuine intuition or merely a mental effort to escape despair. This is where the constant exercise of spiritual vigilance comes in, keeping a journal of revelations, noting not only the phrases heard, but also the sensations that accompany them, colors glowing in the dark, subtle scents of flowers or incense, the perception of a loving presence as if someone gently touched your shoulder. These clues act as indicators that support was not the result of chance, but genuine divine counsel, capable of guiding the critical decisions that mark the difference between succumbing to chaos or navigating the storms with renewed resilience. To illustrate this point, I recall a young man who faced serious health dilemmas. His diagnosis required risky surgeries, and fear made each night unbearable. In a moment of despair, he knelt, and his voice choked with anxiety, repeated the rosary. Thinking of it was then that he heard within himself, "I support your fragility." While it didn't guarantee an immediate cure, this message gave him the courage to continue treatment, overcome his panic, and lean on a network of friends who, inspired by his testimony of faith, offered practical assistance from rides to meal preparation. The impact was twofold. His health gradually improved, and the young man discovered in adversity the capacity to create authentic human connections, realizing that divine protection often manifests itself through gestures of human love. This promise of support also redefines our mindset about control and surrender. In a world that values autonomy and predictability, the idea of relying on a higher power may seem contradictory. But the voices in the night remind us that there is wisdom beyond the algorithms of reason. When Mary whispers that even the most violent storms turn into blessings, if you trust, we are invited to release the desire to control every variable and embrace the transformation that arises from trust. This leap of faith, though challenging, has a profound impact. We learn to make decisions aligned not only with our immediate plans, but with a broader vision that includes collective well-being and a greater purpose. Reflecting on this invitation to protection, we realize that it doesn't exempt anyone from facing challenges, but rather redefines how we deal with them. The promised protection is an invisible shield that strengthens inner resilience, allowing each of us to create coping strategies based on a confidence that transcends our own limitations. It is in the synthesis of spiritual revelations and concrete action that we find the true essence of this message, a powerful alliance between the divine and the human, capable of moving inner mountains and generating practical changes in the world around us. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment here. I'm on this journey to now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. After experiencing the transformative power of conversion, feeling the liberating balm of forgiveness, and perceiving constant support amidst crises, a fourth, unrevealed message emerges that reverberates with singular intensity: the call for unity within the Christian family. Mary, in her gentle maternal voice, invites each of us to recognize that the journey of faith is not solitary, but truly lived in communion. This message goes beyond blood ties or the walls of a church. It paints a vision where every gesture of fraternity, every act of solidarity, and every decision to reach out to others contributes to a profound transformation in the collective mindset and the impact we have on the world. In many behind-the-scenes accounts of retreats and prayer gatherings, we see people who, after experiencing an intense experience of prayer in the wee hours of the morning, discovered the urgency of restoring previously neglected family bonds. Heartwarming stories tell of how siblings estranged by long-standing misunderstandings gathered around a prayer table, sharing tears and laughter as if they had rediscovered their own calling to care for one another. In other situations, neighbors who barely exchanged greetings began gathering for Bible studies, offering practical support in times of need. Whether it was accompanying elderly people to medical appointments, sharing emergency expenses, or simply listening to life stories, these gestures, though seemingly simple, carry the potential to untie knots of loneliness and create a collaborative network capable of altering the course of small communities, proving that the unity of the Christian family extends to the workplace, schools, volunteer groups, and any setting where the mission of service can flourish. The hidden truth of this message is revealed in every synesthetic detail felt by devotees during prayer. It is common that, even in large, crowded rooms, visionaries report a perception of concentrated warmth, as if Mary's presence becomes even closer when hearts unite in a common purpose. This sensation, described as a collective embrace that envelops each person, suggests that unity is not just an abstract concept, but a sensory experience capable of strengthening the spiritual fabric of a community. From this revelation, many were motivated to create itinerant prayer groups, traveling from city to city to bring comfort and encouragement, as if sharing a treasure discovered behind the scenes of Medjugorje, where each new gathering adds a piece to the mosaic of stories that confirm the power of a faith lived together. At the heart of this proposal lies the understanding that individual conversion must radiate toward mutual conversion. When each member of a family or community prioritizes personal transformation, the sum of these changes generates a multiplier impact. For example, when parents experience renewed forgiveness and begin to treat their children and spouses with more patience and compassion, the effect reverberates throughout the school environment, the workplace, and even the neighborhood. The commitment to living a hidden truth, based on values of altruism and dedication, produces decisions that influence entire social structures, creating microclimates of hope where there was previously distrust or indifference. It is as if each act of love were a seed sown in fertile ground, capable of germinating harvests of harmony and fraternity. In a revealing testimony, a group of young university students, moved by this message, created a mentoring project for colleagues experiencing emotional and academic crises. Motivated by Maria's urgency, they met weekly to study biblical passages, share life experiences, and offer practical support in professional and personal choices. The impact was visible not only in improved academic performance but also in the reduction of anxiety and depression among participants, demonstrating that spiritual union, expressed in attitudes of mutual care, brings about a meta-transformation that goes beyond the intimate sphere, achieving collective well-being. This collaborative mindset, the fruit of revelations that unfold in the quietest moments of the night, ends up redefining the meaning of Christian mission. When unity becomes a priority, geographical and social boundaries blur, and we recognize brothers and sisters in people we would never otherwise know. Active listening, which we learn to practice in the Medjugorje retreats, teaches us to value each life story as an essential fragment of a greater mosaic of revelations. And, by practicing this listening within the family or community, we discover that, often, the inner healing of one member reverberates like a balm for the others, creating a virtuous circle of empathy and healing. Behind the scenes of this message, initiatives emerge, ranging from fundraising campaigns for struggling families to the creation of shelters for immigrants and refugees. Driven by the revelation that each brother's home is part of a great temple of faith, volunteers dedicate their time and resources, learning firsthand that social transformation is a direct consequence of a mindset guided by compassion. Each volunteer experiences everyday miracles: children who regain the sparkle in their eyes after receiving academic support, seniors who rediscover their dignity through regular visits, and entire families who, when integrated into a network of affection, find the strength to rebuild lost dreams. When we apply this message to our own family's routines, we see how small decisions, choosing respectful dialogue over conflict, sharing family time instead of dispersing ourselves into isolated tasks, an atmosphere of trust that inspires cascading change. And when we extend this concept to the faith community, a spiritual echo effect emerges, where unity generates a harmonious sound that resonates beyond the walls of the church, reaching hearts that have not yet been exposed to these revelations. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment here: I'm on this journey to now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. When the apparitions of Medjugorje began to echo in the hills of Bosnia, they brought with them a prophetic call that resonates to this day: the urgency of vigil and preparation for the signs. Mary, in her unspoken messages, urged each of us to keep our spiritual senses awake, to perceive in our hours of rest not just ordinary dreams, but subtle clues of a divine plan unfolding in our daily lives. This hidden truth challenges our complacent mindset, inviting us to look at reality with renewed eyes, ready to recognize symbols and receive revelations that can drastically alter our decisions and guide our entire life's journey. During the silent hours of prayer, many devotees report that, just before dawn, as the last rosaries are recited, a sense of anticipation pervades the room, as if the very atmosphere were charged with something to come. It is in this climate of vigilance that vivid dreams arise, in which they encounter half-open gates, pulsating lights, or encrypted messages in seemingly unreal landscapes, but whose emotional impact reverberates upon awakening. These experiences, recorded behind the scenes at spiritual encounters and in prophetic diaries, reveal that the preparation process is not limited to external practices, but involves a profound internal transformation. We train our minds to retrieve the nuances of each dream, noting colors, aromas, and sensations to decipher the meaning behind each symbol. In numerous accounts, pilgrims recount how, after nights of vigil in prayer groups, they felt a weight on their hearts that suddenly became as light as a feather. At that moment, a clear word echoed in their conscience: be ready. For some, this advice came in the form of a glimpse, a flash of images showing scenes from the near future, where small acts of kindness would be decisive in averting a global crisis. For others, it was simple phrases like "watch the signs in the heavens" or "the hidden truth will come through dreams." These instructions, though brief, have an immediate impact: the conviction that our ordinary routine can become the stage for revelations that affect not only our personal lives but also the community around us. The phenomenon of conscious wakefulness is even supported by studies on altered states of consciousness. Research suggests that the combination of partial sleep deprivation, absolute silence, and repeated prayers can lead the brain to a state of heightened receptivity, in which dreams present themselves with more intense colors, more precise sounds, and narratives that defy the laws of common logic. However, what sets Medjugorje apart lies in the spiritual dimension that accompanies these experiences. The sensations are not limited to dreamlike impressions, but extend throughout the body, causing warmth in the chest, tingling in the extremities, or even the smell of incense that is not physically present. These sensory details act as indicators that these are not merely products of the mind, but real revelations that require preparation, vigilance, confirmation, and decision-making based on the messages received. The importance of this practice is illustrated by the testimony of a professor who, after years of disbelief, decided to participate in a night vigil in the darkness. While silently reciting prayers, he felt an inner whisper alerting him to a crucial choice in his academic career. He immediately wrote the word change in his notebook. The next day, upon reflection, he realized he felt a desire to abandon a comfortable position and accept an invitation to teach at a foreign university, a mission that seemed beyond his capabilities. Motivated by the revelation, he made the bold decision and saw his life transform. New professional contacts, cultural exchange, and a research project that gained international notoriety. The impact was so significant that he began leading prophecy study groups, replicating behind the scenes the dream surveillance techniques he had learned. This call to prepare for the signs goes beyond the individual and takes on community dimensions. In several parishes around the world, small vigilance circles have formed, meeting in homes and chapels during the so-called dead hours of the early morning. There, they share dreams, test interpretations, and seek collective discernment before making decisions with local impacts such as organizing relief campaigns in emergency situations or mobilizing against imminent social injustices. These sharing networks operate as a spiritual laboratory, blending emotional accounts with practical analysis, and demonstrate that preparing for the signs can be an instrument of social transformation, stimulating proactive and supportive actions before crises reach their peak. Even those who have never visited Medjugorje can adopt this practice by adapting simple habits, setting aside time for silence at night, keeping a notebook by their bed, and practicing mindfulness during dreams. The routine of recording official or subtle revelations creates a personal database, where each symbol, word, or sensation becomes part of an internal map for navigation in times of uncertainty. Thus, when signs manifest in the form of prophetic dreams, sudden intuitions, or real-life events that resonate with what was dreamed, we are ready to act with confidence, avoiding panic and making decisions aligned with a purpose that transcends our immediate desires. It's fascinating how this call to vigilance connects with other areas of knowledge, such as positive psychology and decision-making theory. Studies show that people who adopt practices of reflection and dream recording tend to develop greater creativity, resilience, and problem-solving skills. However, the spiritual component brought by the Medjugorje revelations adds a dimension of profound meaning. Decisions based on signs are not just cognitive adaptations, but expressions of faith, hope, and charity that shape not only the individual but also the social environment around them. In other words, vigilance becomes a channel of collective impact, where each step sensitive to signs contributes to a network of global benevolence. By adopting this posture of preparation, we create a new mindset in which nothing is seen as mere chance or coincidence. Every dream that disconcerts us, every intuition that arises out of nowhere, and every unexpected event in the external world are read as part of a divine script under construction. And when the transformation occurs, we realize that this practice of vigilance yields tangible fruits, wiser decisions, more successful social impact projects, and a renewed sense of purpose, capable of sustaining the soul even in adversity. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment here. I'm on this journey to now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. There is something profoundly transformative in hearing a living testimony of faith, especially when it comes to us as a behind-the-scenes echo of a spiritual experience. I heard the story of Anna, a music teacher from a small rural town, who was torn between her passion for teaching and the weight of frustrations that had accumulated over the years. She said that, after several professional and personal disappointments, she began to doubt her calling, wondering if she still had the strength to continue investing in what she loved. It was then that, on a silent night of prayer, while meditating on the apparitions of Medjugorje, Anna felt something subtle but undeniable, a gentle whisper, like the notes of a distant melody, saying, "Renew your hope and sing again." This advice, coming from a maternal presence that seemed to envelop her entire being, marked the beginning of a journey of transformation. Immediately, she felt a shift in her mindset. The desire to give up gave way to an inner flame fueled by renewed courage. At dawn, instead of returning to her routine concerns, Anna decided to record every detail of that experience, the tone, the rhythm of the whisper, the emotion that filled her chest. In the notebook she kept beside her pillow, each word was carefully written, serving as evidence of a hidden truth that could not be ignored. Behind the scenes of her own life, a confidence emerged that led her to create new projects at the school where she worked, singing lessons for children with learning disabilities, musical prayer meetings for parents and teachers, and even benefit concerts for local social causes. The impact of these actions was astonishing. Students who had previously felt excluded began to blossom, discovering hidden talents. Co-workers found a greater purpose in collaborating in the events, and the community, previously alien to spiritual events, began to see music not only as art, but as a tool for healing and communion. This living testimony of faith, shared behind the scenes of houses of prayer and in online forums of Medjugorje devotees, gained authority through the clarity of the decisions Anna made after hearing that voice. When the mind opens to divine counsel, it reveals a force capable of generating collective impact, demonstrating that the power of revelations lies not only in individual experience, but in the practical consequences it brings to everyone around Anna's story. Also highlights the importance of a welcoming environment for such testimonies to flourish. She mentioned how, in small sharing groups that formed in her parish, people found space to express doubts, share dreams, and discover that they were not alone in their quests. In this microclimate of communion, each story served as a mirror for the other, creating a mosaic of experiences that reinforced the conviction that faith is, above all, a collective journey. From there, projects emerged to support musicians in vulnerable situations, art education, workshops for at-risk youth, and even a community choir that performed in hospitals and nursing homes, bringing comfort and joy wherever it went. The authority of this real testimony is confirmed when observing how concrete changes began to occur. Where there was once uncertainty, there were now defined plans for future events. Where fear of making mistakes prevailed, the boldness of innovative proposals flourished. And where Professor Anna saw only limitations, a potential for impact that went beyond the classroom walls was discovered. At each of these stages, decisions were guided by the advice she heard in the early hours, a gentle voice that translated into initiative, creativity, and service to others. And what's most fascinating is seeing how this story resonates in other fields of knowledge. In psychology, studies show that listening to positive and inspiring messages can promote lasting behavioral changes. In sociology, community involvement, encouraged by a committed leader, generates social cohesion and strengthens the relationship. In education, an approach that integrates faith and practical action motivates engagement and meaningful learning. All this happens because, when the testimony of faith is grounded in living revelations, the effect is a spiral of transformations that feeds on itself, impacting both the individual and the community. Anna's journey, therefore, illustrates how the sixth unrevealed message of Medjugorje the living testimony of faith is not restricted to the intimate sphere of those who hear it, but overflows into the external world in the form of initiatives that change realities. It is proof that, when we receive advice that touches our hearts, we are called to translate it into concrete actions, bold decisions, collaborative projects, and small daily gestures that, together, create a true silent revolution. And, like Anna, each of us can become a channel of transformation, carrying forward those voices that echoed in the early morning as an invitation to a full life. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. After experiencing the first 6 messages: conversion, inner healing, divine protection, unity in the Christian family, prophetic vigil, and living witness of faith, the time comes to welcome the 7th undisclosed revelation of Medjugorje, the call to personal mission. This message is not a passive invitation, but a dynamic impulse that summons us to transform the impact of these voices into concrete decisions, extending the reach of Mary's maternal love beyond our own borders. It is as if, at the end of each prayer experience, we are reminded that we are channels of a hidden truth, responsible for spreading this divine breath into every aspect of our journey. Upon receiving this invitation, each listener is compelled to look within and ask, what is my role in this greater mission? This isn't a generic task, but something deeply personalized, aligned with each person's unique skills, passions, and circumstances. For some, it might mean taking on social projects that were already in the works but never received the impetus of renewed faith. For others, it might mean translating the advice they heard in the wee hours into practical action, whether by helping neighbors in need, supporting justice initiatives, or collaborating in charitable movements that promote human dignity. The central idea is that a personal mission is born when internal transformation, fueled by revelations, finds an external purpose, transforming itself into concrete acts of love. At the heart of this call, we see that the servant-treater mentality, one who merely absorbs teachings, gives way to the servant-agent mindset, someone who applies prophetic messages to the fabric of society. And behind the scenes of this change are inspiring stories: doctors who, after hearing the call for inner healing, decided to create volunteer clinics to serve underserved populations; teachers who reformulated teaching methods to include prayer and meditation practices in the classroom, entrepreneurs who began allocating part of their profits to local community projects. Each initiative reveals how a small decision, made in obedience to a voice heard in the darkness of the night, can generate waves of transformation that transcend the personal sphere and reverberate throughout society. It's fascinating to note that, although this message hasn't been officially disseminated, it manifests spontaneously in different cultural contexts, proving that the call to personal mission transcends geographical barriers. I've seen examples of young university students in one Asian country setting up prayer centers within their campuses, guiding their peers to develop volunteer activities in response to Mary's call. In another region of Africa, groups of farmers created solidarity cooperatives, sharing resources and knowledge, driven by the conviction that unity and practical service echo the commandment of love they received during their vigils. These diverse expressions demonstrate that the impact of the message adapts to the reality of each community, respecting their culture and needs, but maintaining the same purpose of transformation and compassion. When considering this calling, it's essential to understand that a personal mission isn't an act of selfish willfulness, but a commitment that requires discernment and planning. True revelation isn't limited to momentary fervor, but translates into an ongoing journey of strategic decisions, defining clear goals, establishing progressive steps, and evaluating behind the scenes of our conscience whether each action aligns with the inner voice that guides us. This spiritual life project mindset converges with concepts of personal development and leadership, as it involves self-knowledge, discipline, and collaboration. When we apply these frameworks to our mission, we ensure that the initial impulse doesn't dissipate, but rather grows stronger with tangible results. In the context of the Medjugorje revelations, the call to personal mission was accompanied by practical advice, organizing small prayer meetings in homes, using social media to share authentic testimonies, offering time and talents in mutual aid groups, and developing support materials such as newsletters and videos that explain the unofficial messages. These behind-the-scenes actions demonstrate that mission doesn't require large financial resources, but rather an inner willingness and creativity driven by faith. Every detail counts, from choosing a welcoming place for the meeting to considering how to include those who feel most vulnerable, ensuring that the revelation translates into real inclusion. The prophetic dimension of this calling also reveals itself in how we interpret the signs we receive. As we exercise vigilance and record our dreams and sensations, we identify patterns that indicate areas in which we are especially called to act. Perhaps it's a recurring dream about children in need, signaling a child care ministry, or a strong intuition related to cultural events, indicating a calling to bring art and spirituality to public spaces. The hidden truth pulsating in these signs offers clues for us to mature our vision of mission, transforming every detail of revelation into a map of service. And we cannot ignore the collective impact that arises when several people individually respond to this call. Informal collaborative networks emerge, where each personal mission connects with others, forming a web of complementary initiatives that create a powerful synergy. In certain regions, groups born from the same prophetic impulse have organized inter-community conferences to share best practices, identify regional needs, and coordinate larger-scale projects, ranging from emergency relief efforts to long-term programs focused on education and human development. This network of missions, fueled by testimonies of faith, becomes a driving force for social transformation, demonstrating that a union of purposes exponentially expands the reach of each project. Behind the scenes of these networks, testimonies of unexpected revelations reinforce the sense of urgency and responsibility. I read the story of a community leader who, after hearing the phrase, "Bring hope to those who have lost everything in the early hours of the morning," decided to set up a temporary shelter for those displaced by a flood. The impact was immediate. Families received shelter, food, and psychological support. But more than that, they felt cared for by a community that lived the hidden truth of Medjugorje as a constant call to practical compassion. This experience demonstrates that personal mission, when embraced faithfully, bears fruit that goes far beyond expectations, touching lives and inspiring others to follow the same path. It's important to emphasize that this calling doesn't eliminate challenges. On the contrary, it involves facing fears, overcoming limitations, and managing resources creatively. A personal mission requires courage to make unpopular decisions, patience to deal with obstacles, and discernment to adjust course when necessary. However, each of these challenges becomes part of the transformative process that Mary proposes. By trusting the voice we hear in the early morning, we develop leadership skills, learn to balance faith and practical action, and consolidate a service mindset that transcends our own interests, focusing on the common good. The seventh message, therefore, confronts us with a fundamental question: what are you willing to sacrifice for this mission to come to fruition? If the answer is a resolute yes, then the true movement of faith begins, materializing in plans, partnerships, and daily gestures of love. And thus, the journey doesn't end within ourselves, but expands like a wave of transformation, touching hearts, inspiring communities, and revealing, behind the scenes, the grandeur of a divine plan revealed in every act of service. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. After exploring the 7 unrevealed messages of Medjugorje, from the invitation to conversion to the call to personal mission, the need arises to translate all of this into daily practice, offering a mini guide for hearing and discerning Mary's voices in your prayer. This guide is not a rigid ritual, but a flexible path that respects your rhythm and particularities, connecting inner silence, Bible reading, examination of conscience, and prayer journaling in an integrated process of transformation. First, cultivate inner silence. Amidst the chaos of everyday life, finding 5 or 10 minutes of stillness makes a difference. Choose a quiet environment. It could be a corner of the room, a garden, or even your car before starting your day. Turn off notifications. Breathe slowly and allow your mind to calm down. Imagine each breath expelling stray thoughts, creating a mental space where a softer voice, the one offering maternal advice, can emerge with clarity. Over time, this silence becomes a natural invitation. Even in busy places, you will learn to create an internal bubble of serenity where your listening becomes more acute. Next, delve deeper into your Bible reading. The Word inspires, guides, and often echoes what we feel in prayer. Select a short passage, preferably a psalm or one from the Gospels, and read it carefully, more than once, allowing the words to reveal layers of meaning. As you read, pay attention to phrases or verses that touch your heart in unexpected ways. These are keys to discernment. For example, if you come across, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden," Matthew 11:28, and it resonates like a personal whisper, write down that impression. The Bible, seen as a mirror to the soul, functions as a channel of communication, guiding your mind to what Mary, in Medjugorje, invited you to contemplate. The third element of the mini-guide is the examination of conscience, a practice that became famous in spiritual retreats but can be simplified for everyday life. Before or after prayer, take a brief internal assessment. What emotions were predominant in the last few hours? Were there moments of tranquility, anxiety, joy, or fear? Ask yourself, what did the Spirit bring me today? And where do I still need healing or conversion? By answering honestly, you begin to identify patterns of thought and behavior that deserve attention. This process of self-analysis is not self-judgment, but a compassionate recognition of areas that cry out for divine intervention and the loving voice of Mary. Finally, record everything in a prayer journal. This journal doesn't have to be literary. A simple notebook is enough, where you write down the date, time, and key phrase of what you heard or felt. Briefly describe the context, early morning Thanksgiving, prayer, or reading Psalm 23, and then write down the words, sensations, or symbols that emerged. Some people prefer to draw scribbles of light, silhouettes, or colors to visually represent the experience. The important thing is to create a personal history of revelations, allowing you, over time, to recognize patterns and confirm whether the voices you heard corresponded to fruits of peace, courage, and love. This journal becomes a living testimony of how grace manifests itself in your journey, helping you discern between the voice of anxiety and Mary's reassuring counsel. When these 4 practices, inner silence, Bible reading, examination of conscience, and prayer journaling, come together, a cycle of active listening and divine feedback is formed. Each day, you become more sensitive to the whispers of the night, the intuitions that arise during meditation, and the signs that present themselves in vivid dreams. And, as the transformation occurs, your mindset will align with a hidden truth that goes beyond words. You begin to act with greater confidence, making decisions based on an inner conviction that resists doubt and fear. Remember that this process requires patience and persistence. The first time you seek inner silence, you may find only a whirlwind of thoughts. Bible reading may not immediately spark anything extraordinary. An examination of conscience may reveal areas you'd rather ignore, and a prayer journal may seem like just another commitment. Still persist. Over time, the impact will become undeniable. Your daily decisions, whether at work, in relationships, or in personal projects, will begin to reflect the serenity and authority of a voice that has been guiding you since dawn, whispering counsel of conversion, healing, protection, and mission. It's worth noting that this mini-guide isn't exclusive to times of crisis. You can apply it during phases of growth to refine your trajectory, identify opportunities to serve, and enhance your personal mission. After all, Mary's voices in Medjugorje whisper not only about what to leave behind, but also about the directions to follow. Through these practices, you discover that every detail of your story, the behind-the-scenes details of your routine, the small decisions, and the major turning points, is woven by a loving plan that gradually reveals itself, leading you to a life marked by purpose, impact, and communion. If these messages touched your heart, Leave a comment with which one resonated most with you and share your experience praying in the early morning. Like the video so more people can discover these secrets of Mary. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future revelations. And if you've made it this far, thank you for keeping your heart open to each revelation and for joining me on this journey of transformation. If these Medjugorje messages have brought something valuable to your life, subscribe to the channel and join this community that seeks to hear the subtle voices in the early morning. Leave a like to show us we're connected and share in the comments. I'm with you until the end if this message was made specifically for you. And take advantage. There's a video here that complements this topic. Click and stay with me there because there's still much for us to discover together.